All right, here we go. I haven't seen anyone posting World's Tier Lists yet, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I'm only going to do the play-in stage right now because that's what's coming up here pretty soon, in about 1 week's time. Coming up quick, so we're going to do play-ins. And then maybe come back and do the rest after. So, first team up, we have the Softbank Hawks. This is the Japanese team. I think that, let's see, they have Evie, who most people should know. And then the rest of this team is kind of, I don't know, new-ish. They have quite a few Korean players, three, in fact. Um, so, I think this team is okay. I think they're not fantastic. I know everyone wants to believe that a Japanese team is going to be very good. I think they're okay. I think that they will do mediocre. So, I'm going to give them B tier. Next up, we have Rainbow Seven, which, if you've been watching International for quite some time, you will be familiar with this team name. But the big difference here is they've retained a lot of the, I guess, common names of LATAM, including Audi and Seo, CEO, whatever, however you pronounce his name. But the big difference is Summit is their top laner, which, boy, his career has had an interesting trajectory. Um, but I think Summit, as far as I've seen, has kind of been dominating this league from the top lane, as you would imagine. Summit very much known for his laning prowess, so I don't think this region has had a fun time dealing with that. With that being said, I think that he will have a similar result against maybe some of these lower tier. I don't even want to say lower tier, but maybe less experienced. Less experience is near the right word either. Anyways, I think he'll do okay against some of these opposing teams just due to his laning prowess. But I think as he gets up to some of the better teams in play-ins here, I don't know if it will be enough, and they may just employ the Camp Summit strategy. So for that reason, and with LLA kind of being a weaker region in general, I'm unfortunately going to have to give them C tier. Okay, next up is the Brazilian representative in Pain Gaming. I think for a lot of people that maybe just watch International, um, this team is not going to be exactly what you expect. No Tinones, no Robbo, anything like that. Someone you might recognize is Teton, who's their 80 carry. You might recognize him from Misfortune ulting a lot of waves in a couple years ago in play-ins and having interesting and cool looking hair. Outside of that, I think this team is okay. I think they're kind of a bit middle of the pack as far as these teams here in play-ins go. So for that, I will give them B tier. Next up, we have the Vikings, which is the Vietnam second seed. Um, this team is not, they're not bad. I think, it really depends on what your impressions are of the Vietnamese league in general and their skill level and kind of where they exist now after all of the issues they have had. And not that, kind of for a while they've had some big issues and then they had, the gambling issues and all this. I think famously this is SOFM's team, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of cool, kind of a fun throwback for people who have been watching for a while. Um, he does not play on the team, as far as I know, but I believe he does. He is definitely involved. Some notable players you might recognize on this roster would be Shogun, their 80 carry. Uh, Vietnam tends to have okay 80 carry players, so he might be one you've noticed before. And then also Kati in the mid lane, who was the former Gigabyte Marines mid laner. So I actually think this team is not that far behind GAM, all things considered, but they are a bit more raw. So it kind of depends on what your impression of GAM is to where you would put them. I think GAM is probably upper-ish end. So I'm actually going to give Vikings B. I guess the question is, are they better? Actually, let me rearrange this right now because I just figured I should now probably rank teams within tiers. I think Pain Gaming is better than Softbank Hawks here. I think, ooh, this is actually a tough call. I think they are better. I think they are better than the Hawks. Sorry, Hawks, but yeah, I think that GAM is not a bad team, and I don't think the Vikings are really that far behind them, all things considered. With all that being said, let's get on to GAM right now. And this team is the best team in Vietnam. They're the first seed. I think you will definitely notice some names on their roster. Luckily, none of these players got caught up in the gambling issues so far as I know, or else I believe they would be banned. But we have Levi in the jungle, who has been doing this for a long time and is actually a very serviceable jungler. Kiaya, who's also kind of a mainstay for Vietnam. I think those two together play a pretty strong top side. Specifically, I think against someone like R7, who is relying on Summit to carry, GAM will pretty much shut them down pretty hard. I actually think they have a pretty favorable, in some regards, matchup into 100T, actually. For that same reason, they could try to exploit topside, which we've seen domestically is an effective strategy for beating 100T. So for that reason, I am going to put GAM in A tier. Oh boy, here we go. We're getting into the spicy ones. So next we have Mad Lions Koi. Mad Lions Koi is the official name now. Some of these folks you will notice, but a lot of them, if you don't watch LEC, you probably won't notice. They went with a very much Spanish-based roster this year because of the association they have now with Ibai. At least that's my understanding as someone who's not European, so forgive me. And namely, they have Elioya still, who you should all probably know as a very, as far as European junglers go, very good jungler. And then a bunch of kind of people you might not be too familiar with if you don't watch EU. Someone to look out for is Supa in the bot lane, their 80 carry. He has some flashes of brilliance, but a lot of these players are fairly inexperienced, so nerves could certainly be a factor, and consistency isn't always what you want it to be. With that being said, I still think that they are a good team, especially as far as the competition is concerned. So therefore, I would give them A tier, and for now, we'll keep them above GAM, but I may reconsider. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think they are below GAM, but they are still ahead of these teams here. Okay, next we have PSG, and this team is a bit of a whopper, especially considering the competition. They are kind of the reigning Taiwanese champions. Lots of good players have actually come from PSG over the years, that have played in many major regions and been very successful. There's actually some on this list right now in River, that we haven't ranked just yet, but if you've been watching for a while, you will definitely recognize some players on this team. Ozzy has been around for a very long time. Junjia used to play in the LPL, actually a very solid jungler in the LPL, moved back to PCS, and has been doing fantastic ever since, I would say head and shoulders the best jungler in the region. And then they have Maple, who has played in LPL, LCS, I think that's it, but has played multiple seasons in other top tier regions, and been good, and notably is one of the players I guess I would consider who has really put PCS on the map in his long career, and is still a really good performer, very strong player, kind of dominates the region. And for that reason, in this tier list, I am definitely giving them S tier. I think PSG is the team to beat here. And with that, we will go on to our last play-ins team, which is 100 Thieves. This is an interesting team. I think a lot of people would not have predicted them to make it here. Namely, Cloud9 is kind of the team everyone thought would be here instead. With that being said, they won fair and square. Cloud9 certainly had some issues, and judging off the news we've gotten of certain players potentially leaving that organization, it doesn't seem like the team was in the greatest state after losing their world spot. But that is not about 100 Thieves. So what is 100 Thieves? 100 Thieves is basically Quid and River, who are two imports. We talked about River, the former PSG jungler, which is kind of high pedigree these days. You think of Karsa, River, and Junjia, all very strong, world-class junglers. So River is an absolute magician in there. He makes kind of ganks come out of nowhere that other players just don't see, especially in the LCS. And Quid has really high potential, really high skill ceiling, not afraid to play melee carries in the mid lane, and kind of play a lot more aggressive, I guess. Kind of hate that term, but he plays a lot more volatile style of mid lane, which pairs quite well with River. Sniper, who's very young, has good laning skills on his champions. His macro is still not great all the time, and can also be exploited by lane swaps or by overloading top side. So they definitely have weaknesses, but overall in this competition here, I think they will do good, especially considering the draw that they got, which I'm not factoring in for this tier list. But anyways, where do they stack up with these teams here? I think I'm going to put them above Mad Lions and probably below Gigabyte Marines. So let me actually just move Rainbow 7 down, and I'll actually put Softbank down. And yeah, I think that will do it. I think that this will shape up to be a pretty interesting play-ins. I think of these teams, the only one who really has a good chance of making an impact outside of play-ins would potentially be PSG, and even that's a bit of a stretch, to be perfectly honest. yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know your differences. I had been searching around for tier list content for Worlds, and yeah, haven't been able to find anything for a while, so I figured I would just do one myself.